Research says that the Canadian economy is on life support and that the economy probably shrank in 2 of the past 3 quarters. And we are on a clear recession watch for 2026.
Recession. Finally, someone says the R word, and what most Canadians already know. A new report says that the Canadian economy is on life support. Let's take a look.
It says that the Canadian economy is on life support and that the economy probably shrank in 2 of the past 3 quarters. And we are on a clear recession watch for 2026. Let's get more from David Rosenberg, founder and president of Rosenberg Research. David, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Great being with you, Andy.
The Bank of Canada has brought down interest rates by almost 3 full percentage points since 2024, but you reckon more is needed?
Well, the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. So, the bank has cut the policy rate by 275 basis points. Of course, the only people that borrow at the overnight rate are the banks, and nobody borrows at that rate. And other interest rates haven't fallen nearly as much. When I see the proof of the pudding's in the eating, question is, since the Bank of Canada started cutting interest rates in the spring of 2024, what's the Canadian economy done over this time span? And it's barely better than a 1% annualized growth performance. And although the population trends have slowed with the immigration rule changes, real per capita GDP in Canada is still declining. That has not been arrested. I would completely agree that the Bank of Canada probably never should have gone to 5% to begin with. So we came off rates that were very elevated. But it's clear to me, unless the policy lags are just a lot longer this time around, that if this is what 275 basis points of Bank of Canada rate cuts delivers, the grand total of a 1% growth economy, the next question is that all you get?
This kind of reminds me of the interest rate policy in the wake of the 2007, 2008 banking crisis. Low interest rates didn't seem to stimulate growth then at all.
Well, it's, Tiff Macklem wasn't wrong that a lot of the, call it structural issues with the economy are developments that transcend the power of the central bank. But at the same time, if I were in Ottawa and I were in his shoes, I would be doing all I possibly can. Inflation in this country is not really an issue. Virtually every underlying inflation measure is comfortably within the Bank of Canada's comfort zone. And the economy is growing below potential. And the Bank of Canada's own forecast, when you dig through the details, is for this disinflationary output gap to be with us, not just this year, but through the end of 2027. So I'm a little surprised that the Bank of Canada is taking such a strident approach. I do think that they will be compelled to cut rates further, even from this egregiously low interest rate. And I think the Canadian dollar, which I had been bullish on tactically, is going to come under some renewed downward pressure at the same time, because there's a case to be made that the Fed probably doesn't do anything at all, at least through the first half of the year.
We have a chart from you guys just showing real GDP year over year percent change going back to 2022, and it shows a relentless decline.
Yeah, we're running
in growth, I should say. Sorry, go on. Sorry, David. Yes, go ahead.
Oh yeah, we got the monthly data late last week. The GDP trend is running at roughly 1%. The fourth quarter sequentially, as you mentioned in your preliminary remarks, is probably going to be fractionally negative. And I'm trying to look around for, what the source of vitality is going to be. I'm really quite surprised that most base rate economists have an inflation view, or at least some of them do, and that everything's going to be fine and dandy because we're going to get a modest amount of fiscal stimulus. I think this is still very largely a show-me situation. I'm looking at just a broad array of indicators, and it's quite striking. You would think that of all the sectors that would benefit from what the Bank of Canada has done, you think would be the housing sector. But if you look over the past year, residential construction expenditures are flat as a beaver tail. Home prices, everybody was telling me back in the summer of 2024, when the Bank of Canada started to cut interest rates, people were saying to me, oh, just wait, they're going to reignite renewed rounds of housing inflation. None of that has happened. In fact, home prices in Canada nationwide have either been flat or negative sequentially for 10 months in a row, and are running negative 2% year over year. And then, we were hoping up until recently that there was some sort of detente with Donald Trump, that his relations with Mark Carney were starting to improve. Well, of course, we can throw that in the waste paper basket right now. But, you're taking a look at manufacturing activity in Canada, even with what would be deemed a competitive exchange rate and red hot U.S. economic growth that you'd think would be pulling in Canadian shipments. Manufacturing is actually down 5% year over year. Like, you're talking about a recession. Well, you have a recession already in the manufacturing sector. And there's no real thrust in terms of retail sales. When you adjust for whatever inflation there is at the retail level, there's practically no growth there either. And that, of course, is very interest sensitive. So it comes back down to, your view on the Canadian dollar is basically.
I used to say, if I hear